Chapter 1. My dearest Eleanor. It's been 1,247 days since you left me. Sergeant Major James "Jimmy" Washington's weathered hands trembled as his pen moved across the lined paper, the way they always did when he wrote to his late wife. Not from age, though 82 years had carved deep lines into his dark skin, but from memories that never quite stayed buried. The afternoon sun slanted through Miller's Cafe's front windows, catching the steam rising from his third cup of black coffee, the kind Eleanor used to say would put hair on a statue. I counted every single one, baby. Every morning I wake up and you're not there. Every night I close my eyes and see your smile. The doctors say the counting is obsessive. I say it's the only thing keeping me sane. The cafe hummed with its usual Thursday afternoon rhythm. Dishes clattered in the kitchen. Linda Martinez, the owner, laughed at something old Harvey said at the counter. The espresso machine hissed and gurgled. Jimmy had claimed this corner booth, third window, back wall view, closest to the emergency exit, for the past 7 years, ever since Eleanor's funeral. It was quiet here. Safe. Or it used to be. I'm sitting in our booth, the one where you used to steal my fries even though you ordered your own. Remember? You'd say they tasted better off my plate. I'd pretend to be annoyed, but God, Eleanor, I'd give anything to have you steal my fries again. The pen paused. Jimmy's mind drifted, the way it always did when he wrote these letters. Back to humid nights in Da Nang. To the weight of an M16 in his hands. To the faces of boys, black, white, brown, who never made it home. The therapist at the VA called them intrusive thoughts. Jimmy called them Thursday afternoons. A bang shattered his reverie. A ceramic coffee cup slammed onto his table, white liquid sloshing over the rim and spreading across the paper like a bullet wound. Ink bled through Eleanor's name, obscuring it, drowning it in muddy brown. This booth's taken now, old man. Jimmy looked up slowly, the way a man learns to move when sudden movements used to mean sniper fire. 3 men stood around his table, blocking the light from the windows. No, not men. Boys playing dress-up in hatred. Mid-20s, maybe younger. Shaved heads, necks tattooed with symbols Jimmy recognized from briefings he'd attended in 1995, when he testified against the Klan and watched his whole world burn for it. The one who'd slammed the cup down stood closest. 6'2", maybe 220, with pale skin stretched over gym-built muscle. His eyes were the washed-out blue of shallow water, cold and empty. A cobra tattoo crawled up his neck, fangs spread wide on his jawline. Marcus Kane. Jimmy knew the name. Knew the father. Knew what men like this were capable of. There are 12 other booths in this cafe, Jimmy said quietly, his voice still carrying the gravel of parade grounds and barking orders. All of them empty. I like this one. Marcus grinned, showing teeth too white, too straight. Money teeth. Nice view. Plus, I heard an old boy sits here every Thursday, writing love letters to his dead wife. Figured I'd come see if it's true. The word boy landed like a slap. Intentional. Testing. Jimmy's jaw tightened, but his hand stayed flat on the table, away from anything that could be construed as a weapon. 60 years of living while black in America had taught him that lesson in blood and bruises. I don't want trouble, son. I ain't your son, N. Marcus. Linda's voice cracked across the cafe like a whip. She stormed over, all 5'3" of righteous fury, her dark eyes blazing. You leave Mr. Washington alone, or so help me God, I'll... You'll what? Marcus turned that empty gaze on her. Call the cops. Go ahead. My uncle's the sheriff. My cousin's the assistant DA. Hell, call the governor, we went to the same country club. He leaned close to Linda, his voice dropping to a whisper that carried anyway. And if you keep pushing, Linda, maybe your pretty little cafe has an accident. Gas leaks are so tragic. Linda's face went pale, but she didn't back down. There are 15 people in here with phones, Marcus. You think you can? Oh, they're already recording. Marcus glanced around the cafe with a theatrical flourish. Sure enough, at least 6 phones were pointed their direction, customers frozen in that modern paralysis of documenting horror rather than stopping it. Great. More views when this goes viral. Respect your elders or some shit. You'll probably make me famous. He turned back to Jimmy, and his smile widened. Now, old man. You gonna move, or do I have to help you? The cafe held its breath. Jimmy looked down at his letter, at Eleanor's name bleeding into nothing. He thought about the 247 letters before this one, all returned unopened. He thought about his son, Michael, who hadn't spoken to him in 15 years. He thought about the men in rice paddies who died because they hesitated. Then he looked up at Marcus Kane and saw something he recognized, a boy playing soldier without understanding the war. No, Jimmy said softly. What? I said no. Jimmy's voice didn't rise, but something in it changed. Something that made Marcus's 2 friends shift uncomfortably. I'm not moving. This is my booth. Has been for 7 years. And son? Jimmy leaned forward slightly, his dark eyes suddenly hard as gunmetal. I've faced scarier men than you in rice paddies. Men who knew what real violence looked like. Men who fought and bled and died for something bigger than their own hate. He gestured to his left forearm, where faded ink showed an eagle, globe, and anchor above a purple heart. I earned these in Da Nang. Where'd you earn that pretty cobra on your neck? Internet hate forum? For just a moment, one crystalline instant, uncertainty flickered across Marcus's face. Then it hardened into something uglier. You think you're tough, old man? You think because you crawled through some jungle 50 years ago, you... He reached down and grabbed Jimmy's letter. No, Jimmy started to rise, but Marcus was faster. He held the paper up, Eleanor's name still visible through the coffee stains, and tore it cleanly in half. The sound seemed impossibly loud. Paper ripping. A marriage ending. Again. Jimmy stood. It wasn't fast. His knees creaked. His back protested. But when he reached his full height, 6'1", shoulders still broad under his cardigan, something shifted in his bearing. The old man disappeared. The soldier remained. His eyes went flat and cold, and Marcus Kane, for all his tattoos and muscle and hate, took an involuntary step back. Son, Jimmy said quietly, you just made a mistake. Then everything happened at once. Marcus's fist came up in a wild haymaker, prison yard brawling with no technique. Jimmy's body remembered what his mind tried to forget, the muscle memory of 100 close-quarters drills. He started to slip the punch, started to pivot, started to... The flashback hit him like mortar fire. Suddenly he wasn't in Miller's cafe. He was back in Da Nang, in the jungle, and the boy in front of him wasn't Marcus Kane but a Viet Cong soldier with a knife, and Jimmy's hands were reaching for a throat, for a weapon, for... The hesitation cost him everything. Marcus's fist connected with Jimmy's temple, and the world tilted sideways. The old warrior went down hard, his hip catching the table edge, sending coffee cups and sugar dispensers cascading to the floor. His head cracked against the booth's vinyl seat with a sound like a branch breaking. Blood, hot and immediate, pooled beneath his cheek. Through the ringing in his ears, Jimmy heard Linda screaming. Heard phones chiming as videos started uploading. Heard Marcus laughing, that same empty sound that echoed through history, through lynchings and church bombings and every iteration of hate that thought itself invincible. Call whoever you want, Marcus said, his voice distant and distorted. He was speaking to Linda, to the cafe, to the phones recording. Call the cops. Call the news. Call the goddamn president. Nobody touches me in this town. Nobody touches Marcus Kane. Jimmy's vision blurred, darkness creeping in from the edges. His hand, slick with blood, found the torn pieces of his letter. Eleanor's name, split in two. I'm sorry, baby, he thought as consciousness faded. I'm so sorry. But somewhere, in the part of his mind that still worked, that still calculated and planned and soldiered on, Jimmy Washington smiled. Because Marcus Kane had just made his second mistake. He thought nobody was watching. But 847 miles away, in an office in Washington, D.C., a phone was already ringing. And the man who would answer it had been waiting for this call for 20 years. The son who never called was finally coming home. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 2. The conference room on the 7th floor of the J. Edgar Hoover building smelled like burnt coffee and the particular brand of exhaustion that came from hunting monsters. Director Michael Washington stood at the head of the table, his 6-foot frame casting a long shadow across the surveillance photos spread like a deck of cards across the polished surface. Operation Clean Sweep enters its final phase today, he said, his voice carrying the clipped precision of a man who'd spent 20 years learning to bury emotion beneath protocol. At 42, Michael had his mother's high cheekbones and his father's broad shoulders, though he'd spent the better part of 2 decades pretending he'd inherited nothing from Jimmy Washington except disappointment. Marcus Kane's trafficking network spans 8 states, he continued, tapping a red pin on the map behind him. 14 confirmed members, 6 suspected. They've been moving weapons, drugs, and, his jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, recruiting vulnerable young men into domestic terrorism cells since 2015. Agent Lisa Chen, his second-in-command for the past 6 years, studied him from across the table. She'd learned to read the micro-expressions that Michael thought he'd mastered hiding, the slight tension in his shoulders, the way his left hand habitually moved to straighten his already perfect tie when he was stressed. Something was off today. Sir, interrupted Agent Rodriguez, a rookie analyst who hadn't yet learned when not to speak, the surveillance logs show Kane's been operating out of Millbrook for the past 3 months. Small town, low profile. Why there specifically? There's no strategic. Michael's phone buzzed. The sound cut through Rodriguez's question like a knife. Every agent in the room knew Director Washington never, ever left his phone on during operational briefings. Protocol dictated silence. Michael Washington was protocol. He glanced at the screen. Something flickered across his face, there and gone in a heartbeat, before his expression settled back into that carefully constructed mask of professional detachment. "Excuse me," he said. "Continue the briefing, Agent Chen. I'll be back in 5 minutes." He walked out with measured steps. Not hurried. Not slow. Exactly the pace of a man stepping out to take an expected phone call. Lisa Chen watched him go, then glanced down at her own phone. The encrypted alert had come through to her 30 seconds before Michael's phone buzzed. Incident report, Millbrook, Kansas. Assault. Victim, James Washington, 82. Suspect, Marcus Kane. Ambulance dispatched. Her blood ran cold. In the hallway, Michael stood with his back against the wall, phone pressed to his ear, listening to Detective Sarah Morrison's voice deliver information he'd been expecting for 6 months. "Director Washington, I'm calling about your father, James Washington. He was assaulted approximately 12 minutes ago at Miller's Cafe in Millbrook. The suspect is Marcus Kane. I believe you're familiar with the name. Your father is being transported to Millbrook General. His condition is..." "I'm aware," Michael said quietly. "Has Kane been taken into custody?" A pause. "Sir, your father has possible head trauma and..." "Has Kane been taken into custody?" "Not yet. He fled the scene, but we have units en route to his known locations." "Sir, with all due respect, your father..." "Thank you, Detective Morrison. Keep me informed of Kane's status." He ended the call before she could respond, then stood motionless in the empty hallway, staring at nothing. "Dad assaulted at Miller's Cafe." The words should have hit him like bullets. Should have sent him running, scrambling, desperate. But Michael had learned a long time ago that the world didn't stop for personal grief. His mother had taught him that lesson when her car went off that bridge 15 years ago, her brake lines mysteriously severed, her death ruled an accident despite Jimmy's drunken ravings about revenge and conspiracies. His father had taught him the rest when Michael found him 3 days after the funeral, passed out in a pool of his own vomit, Eleanor's wedding ring clutched in his hand, whiskey bottles scattered like shell casings. You chose the bottle over Mom. Over me. I'm done. Michael could still see Jimmy's face when he'd said it, that terrible moment of clarity breaking through the alcoholic haze, the reaching hand, the desperate, "Michael, please." He'd walked away. Changed his number. Returned every letter unopened. And told himself it was for the best. Now, 15 years later, standing in the fluorescent-lit hallway of FBI headquarters, Michael pulled out his tablet and opened a secured file. Surveillance photos filled the screen, dates stamped and cross-referenced. Marcus Kane entering Miller's Cafe. Every Thursday. 2:47 p.m. Another photo. Jimmy Washington, corner booth, same cafe. Every Thursday. 2:15 p.m. 32 consecutive Thursdays. The pattern was unmistakable. Michael had noticed it 4 months ago. Michael. He looked up. Lisa Chen stood 5 feet away, her dark eyes sharp with the kind of intelligence that had made her the Bureau's youngest deputy director at 38. "Don't," he said. "Don't what?" "Don't ask why you're looking at surveillance photos of your estranged father and the primary target of our investigation frequenting the same location on the same day at the same time for the past 8 months. Her voice was quiet, but it landed like an accusation. "Don't ask why you never mentioned this extremely relevant coincidence during any of our operational briefings." Michael's jaw clenched. "It's not relevant to." "Wait." Lisa stepped closer, her expression shifting from anger to something worse, horrified realization. "Your father goes to that cafe every Thursday. Kane goes there every Thursday. You've known this for months." She stared at him. "Michael, what did you do?" "I did my job." "Your job." Her voice rose slightly before she caught herself, glancing down the hallway to ensure they were still alone. "Your job is to protect civilians, not use them as." She stopped, pressing her fingers to her temples. "Please tell me I'm wrong. Please tell me you didn't deliberately leave your father exposed to draw Kane out." Michael met her gaze steadily. "Kane has been escalating. Getting bolder. More violent. We needed him to make a move we could document, prosecute. Random traffic stops and search warrants weren't going to. So you used your 82-year-old father as bait?" "I used available assets to advance an investigation that will save lives." "He's your father." "He stopped being my father the day he chose alcohol over my mother's memory." The words came out sharper than Michael intended, cracking the professional veneer. He took a breath, forcing his voice back to neutral. "This isn't personal, Lisa. It's strategic. Bullshit." She stepped even closer, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "I've worked with you for 6 years, Michael. I've seen you track serial killers and child traffickers without blinking. But this?" She gestured to the tablet still clutched in his hand. "This is personal. This is revenge. And you just sacrificed your father to get it." Michael's phone buzzed again. Another message, Kane spotted. "Moving to arrest. Mobilize?" He looked at Lisa. "We have 2 hours before Kane disappears. Maybe forever. Are you with me, or do I need to proceed without my second?" For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, slowly, she nodded. "I'm with you. But Michael? When this is over, we're having a very different conversation." "Agreed." He turned away, already dialing, already moving. "It's happening," he said into the phone. "Mobilize the team. We move in 2 hours." Behind him, Lisa Chen watched him walk away and wondered if she'd just witnessed a son saving the world or destroying his soul. Possibly both. Millbrook General Hospital smelled like antiseptic and broken promises. Michael stood in the hallway outside room 347, close enough to hear the heart monitor's steady beep, far enough to avoid being seen. Through the partially open door, he could see his father's profile, skin ashen against white sheets, breathing tube inserted, monitors tracking vitals that seemed too fragile for a man who'd once carried wounded soldiers through enemy fire. Broken ribs, the doctor had said. Severe concussion. Possible internal bleeding. Stable, but critical. Michael's hand moved toward the door handle, then stopped. What would he even say? Sorry I used you to catch a terrorist. Sorry I've spent 15 years pretending you don't exist. Sorry I'm exactly the cold, calculating son you never wanted me to become. Are you family? He turned. A nurse stood behind him, mid-50s, kind eyes, the kind of woman who'd probably spent 30 years learning to read the guilt written on visitors' faces. I'm here on official business, Michael said automatically. Official business. She glanced at his FBI credentials, then back at his face. You look like him, you know. Around the eyes. Michael said nothing. He's been asking for someone named Michael for years, the nurse continued, her voice gentle but relentless. The doctor said he keeps letters addressed to you. They found them at the scene, in a metal box. All returned unopened. Michael's throat tightened. I need to. 247 letters, she said. I counted when they logged his personal effects. One for every week for nearly 5 years. All sent back. I really need to go. Of course. But she didn't move. For what it's worth, Director Washington, he never spoke badly of you. Even when he was delirious from the pain medication, calling out for you, he'd say, my boy. My brilliant boy. I'm so proud. Over and over. Michael turned away, jaw clenched so tight his teeth ached. I'm here on official business, not family matters. If his condition changes, contact. He said to tell you he's sorry. Michael froze mid-step. Said Eleanor, that was his wife, your mother, I'm guessing, made him promise to keep trying. To keep writing. Even if you never wrote back. He said. The nurse's voice softened. He said you were right to leave. That he didn't deserve forgiveness. But that he loved you anyway. For 5 full seconds, Michael Washington, FBI director, decorated agent, the man who'd stared down domestic terrorists without flinching, stood completely still in that hospital hallway. Then he walked away. Behind him, in room 347, Jimmy Washington's heart monitor beeped steadily on, counting seconds like letters, like days, like all the time in the world that had already run out. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 3. Detective Sarah Morrison had been working crime scenes for 18 years, but she'd never processed evidence that felt quite like this. The metal box sat on the evidence table at Millbrook Police Department, its green paint chipped and faded, the kind of Army-issue footlocker that had seen combat in 3 different wars. Blood spatter, Jimmy Washington's blood, marked one corner in a constellation of dark brown dots. The lock had been simple, already open when they'd found it under the booth where the old man had fallen. Inside, 247 envelopes. White. Standard issue. Each one addressed in careful handwriting that grew shakier with each passing year. Michael Washington. FBI Headquarters. 935 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. Washington, D.C. 20535. And stamped across every single one, in red ink that looked like a wound, return T.O. sender. Christ, muttered Officer Danny Reeves, Sarah's junior partner, staring over her shoulder. Every single one? Every single one. Sarah pulled on latex gloves and carefully extracted the top envelope. Postmarked 1 week ago. She hesitated, then looked at the cafe's owner, Linda Martinez, who sat in the corner nursing a cold cup of coffee, her hands still trembling. Ms. Martinez, did Mr. Washington ever mention his son? Michael? Linda's voice was hoarse from crying. All the time. Showed me pictures from when the boy was little. Said he was FBI now, some big important director. Said he was proud of him. She wiped her eyes. Jimmy wrote to him every week. Same day. Thursday afternoons, after he finished his coffee. He'd write the letter, seal it, walk it to the post office himself. Did he know his son was returning them? Linda's face crumpled. He knew. But he said Eleanor, that was his wife, made him promise before she died. Keep trying. Keep loving. Even when it hurts. She looked at the blood-stained box. Especially when it hurts. Sarah carefully opened the most recent letter. The handwriting was shaky but legible, the words measured and precise. Dear Michael. Letter number 247. I've been sober for 1,826 days now. 5 years next month. Dr. Peters at the VA says I should stop counting, but you know me, I count everything. Days sober. Days since your mother died. Days since I last heard your voice. I don't blame you for the silence. I earned it. Every returned letter is a consequence I accept. But I want you to know I'm still here. Still trying. Still your father, even if you're no longer my son. Something's been bothering me lately. There's a man who comes into Miller's Cafe on Thursdays. Young, white, covered in tattoos I recognize from my testimony days. He watches me. Studies me. It's probably nothing, an old soldier seeing ghosts. But if it's not nothing, I want you to know I'm not afraid. Your mother used to say fear is just love with nowhere to go. I have so much love for you, Michael. Nowhere for it to land. So maybe I'm not afraid because I'm finally ready to see her again. But I'd rather see you. Love always. Dad. Sarah's throat tightened. She set the letter aside and reached for another, dated 3 years earlier. Michael, I know I failed you. I know I chose the bottle over everything that mattered. But I need you to understand something. After your mother died, the world stopped making sense. The men who killed her, and yes, son, they killed her, no matter what that police report said, they're still out there. I see them sometimes, in the faces of strangers. In the men with the tattoos. In the shadows. I'm being followed. Men with shaved heads and symbols I recognize from the Klan trial in '95. They park across from my apartment. They show up at the cafe. I think it's connected to my testimony. If something happens to me. The letter ended abruptly, the ink smudged as if water had fallen on the page. Or tears. Jesus, Danny breathed. He knew. He knew someone was targeting him and he told his son, Anne. And his son never read the letters. Sarah's voice was flat. She pulled out her phone and dialed the number that had been forwarded to her earlier, FBI Director Michael Washington's direct line. It went straight to voicemail. Professional. Clipped. You've reached Director Washington. Leave a message. Director Washington, this is Detective Sarah Morrison with Millbrook PD. I'm handling your father's assault case. I need to speak with you immediately regarding evidence we've found. Please call me back as soon as possible. She hung up and stared at the box of letters. He's unavailable. The guy's father just got beaten half to death and he's unavailable? Sarah didn't answer. She was already pulling out more letters, scanning them quickly, her detective's mind cataloging patterns. The progression from desperation to acceptance. The journey from drunk to sober. The evolution from broken man to something harder, more purposeful. One letter, dated 2 years ago, made her stop cold. Michael, I've made peace with your silence. I understand it. Maybe even respect it. But I need to tell you something, I've started attending meetings at the VA. Not just AA, though I'm still doing those. I'm meeting with other vets who testified against hate groups. We're comparing notes. And son, the pattern is terrifying. 17 of us testified in various trials between 1990 and 2000. 9 are dead. Accidents, mostly. Car crashes. House fires. 1 suicide. Your mother was the 10th. I'm not paranoid. I'm not drinking. I'm just finally seeing clearly. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. And it means I was right. Sarah's blood ran ice cold. She looked at Danny. Get me everything on the 1995 Klan trial. Names, testimonies, outcomes. And I want a list of everyone who testified and their current status. You think? I think James Washington was right. And I think his son knew. Her phone buzzed. A text from Officer Rodriguez, who was still processing the scene at the cafe. Check social media. Videos everywhere. Sarah opened Twitter, and her stomach dropped. The video had 847,000 views and climbing. Marcus Kane had posted it himself from an account with a cartoon Peppa avatar and the bio, White Heritage. American Pride. No apologies. The footage was crystal clear. Someone had filmed it on a high-end phone. It showed everything. Jimmy's quiet dignity. Marcus's escalating aggression. The torn letter. The punch. The old man going down hard, blood spreading across the floor. And the caption, "This is what happens to race traitors in MY Town. 88/14. FFO. Jesus Christ," Danny whispered. He's bragging about it. The comments section was a cesspool of hate and celebration, punctuated by a growing chorus of outrage. Already, hashtags were forming. Hashtag Justice for Jimmy, hashtag Millbrook Shame, hashtag Arrest Marcus Kane. Sarah's phone rang. Detective Morrison. Sarah, it's Chief Hawkins. We have a situation. There are protesters gathering at the courthouse. News vans from 3 states. The FBI just contacted me, they're sending a team. When? 2 hours. Who's leading it? A pause. Director Michael Washington. Sarah closed her eyes. Chief, I need to show you something. But not over the phone. I'm coming to you now. She hung up and turned to the evidence table, where Danny had pulled up the cafe's security footage on his laptop. What have you got? Security cameras at Miller's Cafe go back 2 weeks before they auto-delete. Danny's fingers flew across the keyboard. I'm scrolling through Thursday footage, looking for Marcus Kane's previous visits. How many? So far? 8 confirmed. Always the same time. 2:47 p.m. Stays for 15 minutes. Never orders anything. Just watches. Sarah's jaw tightened. Stalking behavior. Premeditation. This wasn't a random confrontation. He was working up to it. Yeah, but look at this. Danny froze the footage and pointed. 3 days ago. Tuesday. 9:47 a.m. The image showed a man in an FBI windbreaker standing in the cafe doorway, photographing the interior with his phone. The angle was deliberate, capturing sight lines, exits, booth positions. He spent extra time photographing the corner booth where Jimmy always sat. Zoom in on his face, Sarah said quietly. Danny did. The man was black, early 40s, with Jimmy Washington's same high cheekbones and Eleanor's sharp, intelligent eyes. He wore an FBI credentials badge on his belt, clearly visible. Run facial recognition. Already on it. Danny's fingers moved across the keys. The software churned through databases, cross-referencing against federal employee records, driver's licenses, known associates. The match came back with 99.8% certainty. Washington, Michael James. FBI Director. Badge number 2847. Clearance level, Cosmic Top Secret. Sarah stared at the screen, her mind racing through implications that made her feel sick. 3 days before the attack, FBI Director Michael Washington, estranged son who returned every letter unopened, had personally scouted the location where his father would be assaulted. He'd photographed angles. Documented positions. Done everything a federal agent would do when preparing for a tactical operation. Or setting up a trap. Sarah. Danny's voice was shaky. What does this mean? She thought about the letters. The warnings Jimmy had sent that Michael never read. The pattern of deaths among witnesses. Marcus Kane's Thursday routine that must have been documented in FBI surveillance. The timing, too perfect, too precise. And Michael's strange calm when he'd received the news. His focus on Kane's custody status rather than his father's condition. His official business at the hospital, standing outside Jimmy's room but never going in. It means, Sarah said slowly, that Director Washington knew exactly when and where his father would be attacked. And he let it happen. Why would he? Danny stopped, understanding dawning. Bait. He used his own father as bait to draw Kane out. Not just bait. Sarah pulled up the surveillance photo again, studying Michael's face, the careful way he was documenting everything. This is evidence collection. He was preparing for prosecution. Making sure every angle was covered, every detail documented. That's... Danny searched for words. That's monstrous. Sarah's phone buzzed again. A message from Chief Hawkins, Director Washington's team just arrived. They're taking over the investigation. You're ordered to turn over all evidence immediately. She looked at the blood-stained box of letters. At the surveillance photo of a son who'd stood in this cafe, staring at his father's booth, and made a calculation that no human being should ever have to make. Danny, she said quietly. Make copies of everything. The letters, the security footage, all of it. And hide them somewhere the FBI won't find them. Sarah, that's obstruction of. That's insurance. She stood, gathering the letters carefully. Because I have a feeling Director Washington is about to bury evidence. And somebody needs to make sure the truth doesn't disappear with it. Through the police station windows, she could see black SUVs pulling up. Men in FBI windbreakers emerging. Moving with the precise coordination of a team that had planned this operation down to the minute. And leading them, his face expressionless behind dark sunglasses, was Michael Washington. Coming to collect his evidence. Coming to bury his father's truth. Coming home, finally, but only because he'd orchestrated the crime that made it necessary. Sarah met him at the door, the blood-stained box under her arm, and wondered if she was looking at a son seeking justice or a monster wearing his face. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 4. The FBI's mobile command center hummed with controlled chaos, laptop screens glowing blue in the dim light, radio chatter crackling through speakers, agents moving with the synchronized precision of a machine built for one purpose, taking down monsters. Michael Washington stood at the center of it all, a map of Millbrook spread across the table before him, red pins marking locations like drops of blood on sterile white paper. Listen up. His voice cut through the noise, and the room fell silent. 23 agents turned to face him, the best tactical team the Bureau had to offer. Lisa Chen stood to his left, her arms crossed, her dark eyes studying him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. Marcus Kane and his organization have evaded justice for 20 years, Michael continued, his tone flat, professional, utterly devoid of emotion. Today, that ends. We have warrants for his compound, 3 secondary locations, and 12 known associates. Rules of engagement are weapons-free if threatened, but I want Kane alive. Is that understood? A chorus of affirmatives rippled through the room. Lisa leaned closer, her voice low enough that only Michael could hear. Your voice is too controlled. I'm briefing a tactical operation. You're hunting the man who put your father in the hospital. There should be something, anger, grief, something, in your voice. But there's nothing. It's like you're reading a grocery list. Michael's jaw tightened imperceptibly. My personal feelings are irrelevant to. Your personal feelings are the only thing that's relevant here. She straightened, addressing the room in a voice that carried authority. Everyone take 5. Get your gear ready. We roll in 15. The agents dispersed, leaving Michael and Lisa alone in the command center. Don't, Michael said. Don't what? Don't point out that you're acting like a sociopath? Don't question why you're more focused on arrest protocols than the fact that your father is in intensive care. I'm doing my job. You're running from your guilt. Lisa pulled out a tablet and swiped through files. I've been digging into Marcus Kane's background. Want to know what I found? Michael said nothing, but his silence was answer enough. Marcus Kane isn't just some random neo-Nazi thug. She pulled up a photo, a mugshot from 1995, showing a man in his 50s with the same washed-out blue eyes as his son, the same cold emptiness. His father was Raymond Kane. Ring any bells? Michael's face remained impassive, but his left hand moved to straighten his already perfect tie. Raymond Kane, Lisa continued, was the Imperial Wizard of the Kansas chapter of the Ku Klux Klan. In 1995, he orchestrated the murder of the Jackson family, Marcus, Teresa, and their 3 children, for the crime of moving into a white neighborhood. Your father testified against him. Raymond got life in prison. Died there in 2010. She swiped to another image. A young Marcus Kane, maybe 19 years old, standing outside the courthouse, holding a sign, "My father is a hero. Race traitors will pay." Marcus was in the courtroom every day of that trial, Lisa said quietly. Watching his father get sentenced. Watching your father testify. And according to prison records, Raymond Kane's last visitor before he died was his son. The guards reported hearing Raymond say, "Finish what I started. Make them all pay." Michael's hands, resting on the table, curled slowly into fists. You knew all this, Lisa said. It wasn't a question. You knew Marcus Kane was Raymond's son. You knew he'd been stalking your father. And you let it play out. I was building a case. You were building a trap. Lisa's voice rose slightly. Your father was the cheese in the mousetrap, Michael. You used him to draw Marcus out, to get him on camera committing a violent felony so you'd have undeniable evidence. Tell me I'm wrong. For a long moment, Michael said nothing. Then, Marcus Kane has been operating with impunity for a decade. His organization has recruited over 200 young men into domestic terrorism. They've trafficked weapons across 8 states. They've been linked to at least 4 murders we can't prove in court. He looked up, and his eyes were hard as stone. My father knew the risks. He testified in 1995 knowing there would be consequences. He lived with those consequences for 25 years. So you just let him take the hit? I gave him the best protection possible, Justice. Michael's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. This is bigger than one old man, Lisa. This is about stopping an organization that's been poisoning this country for 2 decades. If my father's assault is what finally takes them down, then it's a sacrifice worth making. Did you ask him if he thought it was worth it? Michael's jaw clenched so tight a muscle jumped in his cheek. We move in 10 minutes. Are you with me or not? Lisa stared at him for a long moment, and Michael saw something in her expression that looked like pity. Or disgust. Maybe both. I'm with you, she said finally. But Michael? When this is over, we're done. I can't work with someone who sacrifices people like chess pieces. Even if those people are willing. She walked away before he could respond. Marcus Kane's compound sat on 47 acres of Kansas scrubland, surrounded by chain-link fence topped with razor wire. The main house was a sprawling ranch-style structure, its white paint peeling, Confederate flags hanging from the porch. Michael watched through binoculars from the command vehicle as his tactical team moved into position. 3 units, Alpha at the front gate, Bravo circling to the rear, Charlie securing the perimeter. All units in position, crackled through his earpiece. Awaiting go order. Michael's finger hovered over the radio button. Through the binoculars, he could see movement inside the house. Shadows passing behind windows. Lives about to be upended, caged, ended. He thought about his father, lying in that hospital bed. Thought about the letters he'd never read. Thought about Eleanor's face the last time he'd seen her alive, smiling as she kissed his forehead and promised to pick him up after school. She never made it to the school. Sir? The voice in his earpiece. Do we have a go? Michael pressed the button. Execute. The world exploded into motion. Alpha Team breached the front gate with a battering ram. Flashbangs detonated with white light fury. Agents in tactical gear poured through doors and windows, shouting commands in that distinctive bark of law enforcement, FBI. Get down. Hands where we can see them. Michael listened to the chaos through his earpiece, tracking movements on the tablet displaying real-time footage from helmet cams. Marcus Kane was in the main living room, surrounded by 4 associates, all armed. But the agents were better trained, faster, more precise. Within 90 seconds, it was over. Suspect secured, came the report. Kane in custody. No shots fired. We're clear. Michael let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Sir, another voice crackled, you need to see this. We found something in Kane's office. The office was a shrine to hatred. Confederate flags covered the walls. Shelves displayed Nazi memorabilia, KKK robes, framed photos of Raymond Kane in full Imperial Wizard regalia. But what made Michael's blood run cold was the bulletin board covering the entire back wall. A hit list. 17 names, each with a photo, address, and detailed notes. Jimmy Washington's photo was near the top, circled in red marker. Across his face, in bold letters, completed, September 26, 25. Jesus, breathed Agent Rodriguez, standing beside Michael. Michael's eyes scanned the board. He recognized names from his father's testimony. Fellow veterans who'd spoken out. Community leaders who'd stood against the Klan. 6 had red X's marked through their faces, with dates and methods: car accident, house fire, suicide. All the accidents Jimmy had mentioned in his letters. And there, in the bottom row, 2 more photos that made Michael's heart stop. His own face, younger, maybe from 5 years ago. Marked, Phase 2, pending. And beside it, his mother. Eleanor Washington smiled in the photo, caught mid-laugh at some family gathering Michael barely remembered. She looked happy. Alive. Beautiful. Stamped across her face in red, completed, June 12, 2009. Below it, in Raymond Kane's handwriting, Michael recognized it from court documents, a notation that made the world tilt sideways: break line severed. No witnesses. RK sends his regards. First payment for the traitor's testimony. Michael. Lisa's voice, soft behind him. Your mother's car accident. He couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. His hands were shaking, actually shaking, as he reached out and touched his mother's photo with trembling fingers. Not an accident. Murder. 15 years of believing it was random chance. 15 years of watching his father spiral into alcoholism and self-destruction, dismissing Jimmy's drunken ravings as paranoia. 15 years of anger and resentment and blame. And Jimmy had been right all along. There's more, Agent Rodriguez said quietly, pointing to a file folder on Marcus Kane's desk, labeled Washington File. Michael opened it with numb fingers. Inside, surveillance photos of Jimmy. Dozens of them, dating back months. At the cafe. At the VA hospital. At the grocery store. Walking to the post office every Thursday afternoon, letter in hand. A schedule, meticulously maintained. Target attends Miller's Cafe every Thursday, 2:15 to 3:30 p.m. Sits in corner booth. Always alone. Vulnerable. And beneath that, in Marcus's handwriting, father first. Son second. Make them both suffer like my father suffered. Make the traitor watch his son die, then finish him. RK's legacy completed. Michael's legs gave out. He sank into Marcus Kane's chair, still staring at the file. You didn't know, Lisa said. It wasn't a question. About your mother. You thought it was an accident. He tried to tell me. Michael's voice was hoarse. In the letters. He said they killed her. I thought he was drunk, paranoid, looking for someone to blame besides himself. So I stopped reading. Stopped listening. Stopped. He couldn't finish. Lisa crouched beside him, her hand on his shoulder. Michael, you couldn't have known. I should have protected him. The words came out broken. He was right. About everything. The stalking, the threats, the pattern of murders. And I used him as bait to catch the men who killed my mother. What does that make me? It makes you human, Lisa said quietly. Flawed and complicated and trying to do the right thing with incomplete information. I let my father get beaten half to death to catch the man who murdered my mother. Michael looked up at her, and for the first time since she'd known him, his carefully constructed mask had completely shattered. Tell me, Lisa. Was it justice? Or was it revenge? Before she could answer, Agent Rodriguez's voice cut through. Sir, Kane's asking for you. Says he'll only talk to Director Washington. Says he has information about Phase 2. Michael stood slowly, his legs unsteady, his mind reeling. He looked at the hit list one more time. At his mother's photo. At his father's. At his own face marked pending. Take me to him, he said. As they walked through the compound, past evidence bags full of weapons and hate literature, past the symbols of violence that had destroyed his family, Michael made a silent promise to the father he'd abandoned and the mother he'd lost. I'll finish this. For both of you. No matter what it costs. But in the back of his mind, a terrible question whispered, how much had he already paid? And how much more would justice, or revenge, demand? If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 5. The machines beeped their steady rhythm, counting heartbeats like a metronome measuring what remained of a life. Michael sat in the plastic chair in the corner of room 347, his head in his hands, still wearing his tactical vest. He'd come straight from Marcus Kane's compound, hadn't even stopped to wash the dust from his face or the guilt from his soul. His mother's photo, the one from the hit list, was folded in his pocket, the edges already worn from his fingers worrying at it like a prayer. He'd been sitting there for 20 minutes, trying to find words that didn't exist. Apologies too small for the damage done. Explanations that sounded like excuses. Love that had nowhere to land. Hello, son. The voice was weak, threaded with pain, but unmistakably his father's, that same gravel-and-parade ground tone that had commanded soldiers and terrified 12-year-old Michael when he'd come home past curfew. Michael's head snapped up. Jimmy Washington was awake, his dark eyes clear despite the morphine drip, despite the bruises blooming purple and yellow across his face, despite the breathing tube that had been removed an hour ago, leaving his voice raw. Dad. The word caught in Michael's throat. You shouldn't, the doctors said you need to rest. I've been resting for 15 years, Michael. Waiting for you to come home. Jimmy's lips curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. I just didn't think it'd take a beating to make it happen. The words landed like punches, each one precise and deserved. Michael stood, moving closer to the bed but not quite touching it, maintaining that careful distance he'd perfected over the years. I'm sorry. God, Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have protected you. I should have. I know why you're here. Jimmy's voice was calm, almost gentle. You finally got them. Michael froze. What? Marcus Kane. His organization. The men who killed Eleanor. Jimmy's eyes held something Michael couldn't quite read, not anger, not accusation. Something softer. Sadder. You arrested them today. I felt it. Right around 3:47 p.m., something in the air changed. Like a weight lifting. How did you? Because I've been waiting for this day for 6 months, Michael. Ever since you sent me the package. The room tilted. I didn't send you any. Anonymous delivery. February 14th, Valentine's Day. Jimmy's laugh was bitter. Your mother would have appreciated the irony. Inside was surveillance photos of Marcus Kane following me. Watching me. Stalking me like prey. And a note. He closed his eyes, reciting from memory, "He's coming for you. Let him. We'll be ready." Michael's blood ran cold. "Dad, I swear to God, I didn't send. Maybe not you personally. But someone on your team. Someone who knew what you were planning and wanted to give me a choice." Jimmy opened his eyes. "So I made one." 6 months earlier. Jimmy Washington stood on the steps of his apartment building, watching the white sedan that had been parked across the street for 3 days. Different shifts, same car. Professional surveillance. The package had arrived that morning. No return address. Just photos and that note in handwriting he'd recognize anywhere, Michael's careful block letters, the way he'd been taught in academy training. When the surveillance agent, a young woman with sharp eyes and an FBI windbreaker, got out to stretch her legs, Jimmy walked straight up to her. "You're not very subtle," he said. She didn't deny it. "Mr. Washington. My son sent you." "Sir, I can't confirm. He's using me to draw them out." Jimmy pulled the photos from his jacket. "The Kane family. They've been stalking me for months. My son knows it. And he's using me as bait." The agent's professional mask slipped for just a moment, and Jimmy saw the truth in her eyes. "Does he know you know?" she asked quietly. "No." Jimmy looked at Marcus Kane's photo, at those empty blue eyes that reminded him of Raymond Kane, of courtroom testimony, of Eleanor's funeral. "And I'm not going to tell him." "Mr. Washington. How many other people are on that list?" "The one Raymond Kane made before he died. The one his son is working through now." The agent hesitated, then, 14 confirmed targets. 6 already dead. "And if Marcus comes for me, if he makes his move in a public place with cameras and witnesses, you'll have enough evidence to take down his entire organization." "That's the theory." Jimmy nodded slowly. "When?" "We don't know. Could be weeks. Could be months. He's been escalating, getting bolder. We think. I'll make it sooner." Jimmy pulled out his medication bottles, blood pressure pills, heart medication, the cocktail that kept an 82-year-old man functional. "How long can I safely stop taking these before something happens?" "Sir, you can't." "How long?" The agent looked at him for a long moment, and Jimmy saw her struggle with duty and conscience. 2 weeks. Maybe 3. You'd appear weaker, more vulnerable. "But Mr. Washington, if you're suggesting..." "My wife died for nothing," Jimmy said quietly. "Murdered by these people, and the world called it an accident. At least let me die for something. Let me help my son finish what I started in that courtroom in 1995. He doesn't know you know." "I know." Jimmy smiled sadly. "And that's his punishment and his protection. He can live with using me for justice. He couldn't live with killing me for revenge. You stopped taking your medication." Michael's voice was hollow. "You made yourself vulnerable. You helped them." "I helped you," Jimmy corrected. "You needed Marcus to make a move. Needed him overconfident, sloppy, documented. So I gave him what he wanted, a weak old man, alone and unprotected." He coughed, wincing at the pain in his ribs. "I saw your surveillance teams. Good agents. Professional. They were 3 seconds too slow. 3 seconds that nearly killed you. 3 seconds that got you everything you needed." Jimmy reached out with a trembling hand. "Michael, I knew the risks. I made my choice. The same choice your mother would have made. The same choice any soldier makes when the mission matters more than the man." Michael's legs gave out. He sank into the chair beside the bed, his carefully constructed walls crumbling. "I thought I was using you. Manipulating you. Sacrificing you for the greater good. You were. And I was using you right back. Using your guilt, your need for justice, your FBI resources. Jimmy's smile was gentle. We're more alike than you want to admit, son. Both willing to sacrifice everything for what we think is right. I just had 15 years of sobriety and therapy to learn the difference between justice and revenge. What is the difference? Justice protects the future. Revenge punishes the past. Jimmy's grip tightened on Michael's hand. You think you used me for revenge. But you saved 14 lives, Michael. 14 people on that list who won't die because you stopped Marcus Kane. That's justice. You were supposed to be protected, Michael whispered. I had teams watching. Protocols in place. You weren't supposed to get hurt this badly. I know. I saw them. Jimmy's voice grew softer. That's why I chose that specific Thursday. Marcus had been coming to the cafe for weeks, always watching, always waiting. I knew he was close to making his move. So I stopped taking my heart medication 4 days before. Made myself look weaker, more frail. Made him think I was easy prey. Jesus, Dad. It worked, didn't it? He couldn't resist. And now he's in custody, his organization is destroyed, and those 14 people get to live. Jimmy coughed again, harder this time. Worth it. Not to me. Michael's voice broke. Not if it costs me you. I already lost 15 years. I can't. The heart monitor's steady beep began to stutter. Jimmy's eyes widened slightly. Michael. Dad? Michael stood, his training overriding panic. Dad, what's wrong? The damage, to my heart. I knew it was bad. Jimmy's breathing became labored. Stopped the medication too long. Wanted to make it real. But I think I went too far. The monitor's beeping grew erratic, the rhythm breaking like a drummer losing time. No. Michael lunged for the call button. No, no, no. Michael, listen. Jimmy grabbed his son's hand with surprising strength. The box. Under my bed. At the apartment. There's evidence. Things I collected. Audio recordings. Marcus confessing about your mother. About the others. Insurance, in case, he gasped, his face going gray. In case they try to throw out your arrest. In case. Don't. Michael's voice was desperate. Don't you dare. You don't get to come back into my life just to leave again. You don't get to. I love you, Jimmy whispered. Never stopped. Not for one day. Not for one letter. Tell me you know that. I know. Dad, I know. I'm sorry. For everything. For the letters, for the silence, for. Forgiven. Jimmy smiled, and for a moment, Michael saw his father as he'd been 20 years ago, before the alcohol, before Eleanor's death, before everything broke. Tell me, did I do good? Did I make it right? You made it right, Michael said, tears streaming down his face. You were always the hero, Dad. I was just too stupid to see it. Not stupid. Just young. Jimmy's grip loosened. Promise you'll read the letters. All 247. Promise you'll. The heart monitor flatlined. The single, continuous tone cut through the room like a scream. No. Michael grabbed his father's shoulders. Dad. Dad. A nurse burst through the door, followed by 2 more, then a doctor. Sir, you need to step back. Do something. Help him. They pushed Michael aside, their hands moving with practiced efficiency. Chest compressions. Defibrillator paddles charging. Clear. The body jerking. The monitor staying flat. Again, the doctor ordered. Clear. Another jolt. Another flat line. Michael stood frozen, watching them try to restart his father's heart, watching the seconds tick by, each one taking Jimmy further away. Michael. He turned. Lisa Chen stood in the doorway, her face pale, her phone clutched in her hand. Not now, Lisa. Michael, it's urgent. Marcus Kane posted bail. The words didn't register at first. Michael turned back to his father, to the doctors still working, still trying, still fighting a battle that was already lost. His lawyer is claiming the arrest was entrapment, Lisa continued, her voice urgent. Orchestrated by you. Using your father as bait to draw Kane out. He's saying the entire operation was motivated by personal vendetta, not legitimate law enforcement. If he can prove it. The case gets thrown out, Michael finished numbly. And Marcus walks free. Along with everyone we arrested. The doctor stepped back from Jimmy's bed. Time of death, 8:47 p.m. The words hit Michael like bullets. Time of death. His father. Gone. He sank to his knees beside the bed, gathering Jimmy's still warm body into his arms, feeling the weight of a life that had endured too much and loved too hard and sacrificed everything. I'm sorry, he whispered into his father's shoulder. I'm so sorry. I'll make it right. I promise. I'll finish this. They won't walk. Your sacrifice won't be for nothing. I swear it. But even as he made the promise, a terrible thought whispered through his grief. What if it already is for nothing? Behind him, Lisa's phone buzzed with incoming alerts. News vans outside the hospital. Social media exploding. Marcus Kane's lawyer giving a press conference, smiling that same empty smile as his client, talking about justice and entrapment and the corrupt FBI director who sacrificed his own father for revenge. And somewhere in the night, Marcus Kane walked free. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 6. Jimmy Washington's apartment smelled like old coffee and loneliness. Michael stood in the doorway at 2:37 a.m., his FBI credentials still clipped to his belt, his father's blood still under his fingernails. The landlord had let him in without questions. Everyone in Millbrook had seen the news by now. FBI director's father dies hours after brutal attack. Marcus Kane released on bail. Investigation into alleged entrapment underway. The apartment was small. Neat. A soldier's quarters maintained with military precision even in old age. Books organized by height on the shelf. Shoes lined up by the door. A single coffee mug in the dish drainer, washed and waiting for a morning that would never come. On the refrigerator, held by magnets shaped like purple hearts, a photo of Eleanor, young and laughing. And beside it, a picture of Michael at his FBI Academy graduation, one his father must have clipped from a newspaper, since Michael had never sent it to him. I'm not a victim. I'm a soldier who chose his last mission. Jimmy's last words echoed in Michael's mind as he moved through the apartment, past the letters still stacked on the kitchen table. Another week's letter, unsealed, unfinished, Dear Michael, letter number 248, past the military commendations framed on the wall, past the life his father had built in the ruins of grief. To the bedroom. The bed was made with hospital corners, the blanket pulled tight enough to bounce a quarter. Michael dropped to his knees beside it and reached underneath, his hands finding the metal box exactly where Jimmy had said it would be. The Army-issue footlocker was heavier than it should have been for just letters. Michael pulled it out, his heart hammering, and stared at the scratched green paint, the faded stencil, SGT, MAJ, Washington. His hands shook as he opened it. The letters were there, all 247, neatly stacked, organized by date. But underneath them, hidden in a compartment Michael hadn't noticed at the police station, was something else. An SD card in a plastic case, labeled in Jimmy's careful handwriting, insurance, for Michael. A leather journal, its pages thick with entries. And photographs. Dozens of them. Surveillance photos, but not the FBI's professional work. These were taken on a smartphone, slightly grainy, angles awkward. Marcus Kane entering the cafe. Marcus and his associates at a compound. License plates. Tattoos. Faces. Jimmy had been running his own investigation. Michael's hands trembled as he pulled out the SD card and inserted it into his phone. The video player loaded. Dated 3 weeks ago. The camera angle was low, shaky, hidden, maybe in a jacket pocket or bag. The audio crackled to life, and Michael heard his father's voice, muffled but clear. "Afternoon, boys. Don't mind me. Just an old man having his coffee." Then laughter. Young voices. White voices thick with arrogance and hate. The image stabilized enough to show 3 men in a booth, not Jimmy's usual corner spot, but close enough to record clearly. Marcus Kane sat in the center, his cobra tattoo visible, flanked by 2 associates Michael recognized from the raid. "Old man's here every Thursday," one of them said. "Like clockwork." "Pathetic." "He's not pathetic." Marcus's voice, cold and certain. "He's a race traitor. A snitch. My old man died in prison because of that bastard Washington. Rotted there for 15 years because some N** are decided to play hero." Michael's stomach turned, but he kept watching. "Your dad would be proud, man. You're finishing what he started." "Damn right." Marcus took a drink, the camera catching his profile. "I finished his wife in '09. Break line. Clean work. Made it look like an accident. Let the old snitch suffer, watching his world fall apart. His son abandoned him, his wife dead," he laughed, that same empty sound. "Now it's time to finish the job. I'm gonna make him bleed in public. Make him suffer. Then I'll find his FBI son and do the same." "When?" "Soon. I've been watching. Learning his patterns. The old man's getting weaker. Shaky. Won't be long now." The video ended. Michael sat frozen on his father's bedroom floor, the phone clutched in his hands, his breath coming in short, sharp gasps. Evidence. Ironclad, undeniable, recorded confession to Eleanor Washington's murder. To planned violence. To conspiracy. Jimmy had given him everything. Michael's hands shook as he reached for the journal. The leather was worn smooth, the pages filled with his father's handwriting, shakier than the letters, written in the private hours when Jimmy Washington, soldier and father, had planned his final mission. March 15th, received package from Michael's team, or someone close to him. Photos of Marcus Kane stalking me. Note says, "He's coming for you. Let him. We'll be ready. My son is using me as bait. Part of me is angry. Part of me understands." This is how Michael processes grief, through work, through justice, through control. Just like I processed it through alcohol. We're both running from the same pain, just in different directions. March 18th, confronted FBI surveillance agent. She confirmed what I suspected. Michael is building a case against Kane's organization, needs them to make a move. I could walk away. Go into protective custody. Disappear. But then what? Kane's people keep killing. The list grows. And Michael never gets closure for Eleanor's death. Decision made, I'll be the bait. But on MY terms. The entries continued, detailing Jimmy's plan with military precision. The decision to stop taking medication. The purchase of a hidden recording device. The systematic documentation of Marcus Kane's stalking patterns. The calculation of risk versus reward. April 3rd, bought recording equipment. Small enough to hide in my jacket pocket. Quality good enough for court. I'm running my own operation now. If Michael thinks he's using me, he's wrong. I'm using him. Using his resources, his surveillance, his guilt. This is my penance for failing Eleanor. For failing Michael. For choosing the bottle when I should have chosen justice. April 30th, stopped heart medication 4 days ago. Feel weaker. Shakier. Good. Need to look vulnerable. Need Marcus to think I'm easy prey. Michael's surveillance teams are good, but they're 3 seconds too slow by design. He wants Marcus to commit, to be documented. I'll give him that. But I'll also give him something he doesn't expect, evidence that will hold up even if the arrest is challenged. May 15th, recorded Marcus and his crew at the cafe. They don't see me. Old black man in the corner? Invisible. That's their mistake. That's always been their mistake. They see what they want to see, a week-old race traitor. They don't see the soldier. They don't see the father saving his son. Michael's vision blurred with tears. He turned to the final entry, dated the morning of the attack. September 26th, today's the day. I can feel it. Marcus is escalating, getting bolder. My surveillance team is in position, they think I don't see them, but I do. Michael is in Washington, probably in a meeting, planning the raid that will follow my assault. He doesn't know I know. And I won't tell him. Michael thinks he's using me. But I'm using him. This is my penance. This is how I save my son from becoming like me, consumed by guilt and rage. He thinks this is about catching criminals. It's about catching his soul before it falls too far into darkness. If you're reading this, Michael, it means I'm gone. It means the plan worked. You have Marcus on tape confessing to Eleanor's murder. You have evidence that will hold up in court. And you have my final gift, the knowledge that I chose this. Not you. Me. I'm not a victim. I'm a soldier who chose his last mission. I love you, son. I always did. Even when you couldn't love me back. Finish this. But don't let it finish you. Dad. Michael's hands shook so hard he nearly dropped the journal. His father had orchestrated everything. Every move, every risk, every sacrifice, calculated and deliberate. Jimmy Washington had turned himself into bait not because Michael manipulated him, but because it was the only way to save his son from drowning in the same guilt and rage that had destroyed Jimmy's own life. You magnificent bastard, Michael whispered. You played us all. At 6:47 a.m., Michael walked into FBI headquarters carrying the metal box. His eyes were red-rimmed, his suit wrinkled, his tie missing. Agent Lisa Chen met him at the elevator. Michael, you look. Get everyone to the conference room. Now. I have evidence. Within 20 minutes, the room was packed. Deputy Director Harrison. The Assistant Director of Criminal Investigations. 2 representatives from the Department of Justice. And, in the corner, 2 stone-faced agents from Internal Affairs. Michael connected the SD card to the main screen. This is footage recorded by my father, James Washington, 3 weeks before his death. He was conducting his own surveillance of Marcus Kane and his associates. He pressed play. The room fell silent as Marcus Kane's voice filled the air, confessing to Eleanor Washington's murder with casual pride. Describing the break line. The planning. The satisfaction of making Jimmy suffer. When it ended, Deputy Director Harrison spoke first. That's a full confession to murder. First degree. Premeditated. And conspiracy, added the DOJ representative. With multiple witnesses present during the confession. Marcus Kane's bail is revoked immediately, Harrison said. Issue a warrant for his arrest. I want him in custody within the hour. The room erupted into coordinated chaos. Phones ringing. Orders given. Agents mobilizing. But the 2 internal affairs investigators didn't move. Director Washington, the senior one, said, Agent Maureen Brooks, a woman whose reputation for thoroughness bordered on legendary. We need you to come with us. Michael had been expecting this. Of course. Lisa grabbed his arm. Michael. It's fine. He met her eyes. I'll answer their questions. The interrogation room was smaller than Michael expected. Gray walls. Metal table. 2 chairs. The classic setup designed to make subjects feel small, exposed, vulnerable. Agent Brooks sat across from him, her expression neutral. Director Washington, did you knowingly endanger a civilian, specifically your father, James Washington, by using him as bait to draw out Marcus Kane? Yes. Brooks's expression didn't change, but her partner, Agent Dennis Cole, leaned forward. You're admitting to. I'm admitting that I identified my father as a potential target of Marcus Kane's organization and maintained surveillance while allowing events to unfold naturally rather than immediately placing him in protective custody. Events to unfold naturally? Brooks's voice was sharp. Your father was beaten unconscious and died from complications related to the assault. My father, Michael said quietly, was a decorated war veteran who made his own choices. As the evidence shows, he was running his own investigation and chose to be bait on his own terms. Did he inform you of this choice? No. So you assumed. I assumed I was using him. I was wrong. Michael's voice was steady, but his hands under the table were clenched so tight his knuckles went white. My father was using me. Using my resources, my investigation, my guilt. He orchestrated his own role in this operation without my knowledge or consent. Brooks studied him. That's convenient. That's the truth. The truth, Brooks said, is that your father is dead. And Marcus Kane's defense attorney is claiming the entire operation was motivated by personal vendetta, not legitimate law enforcement. He's arguing that the evidence is tainted by. A knock at the door interrupted her. Lisa Chen entered, carrying a single envelope. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, but this was in the evidence box. It's addressed to Director Washington, with specific instructions, to be opened when you understand. She slid it across the table to Michael. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside, his father's handwriting, clearer than the journal, written with the careful precision of a final message. Michael. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. You'll be sitting in some sterile room, being questioned by people who think they understand sacrifice. They don't. I'm not a victim. I'm a soldier who chose his last mission. I used you, son. Used your guilt, your resources, your need for justice. I made myself bait. I recorded the evidence. I orchestrated my own attack because it was the only way to stop them and save you at the same time. Don't let them take this from you. Don't let them turn my choice into your crime. I'm giving you permission, written, documented permission, to finish what I started. But answer me this, was it justice, or was it revenge? Because I finally learned the difference. I pray you do too. Justice protects the future. Revenge punishes the past. I chose justice. I chose to save 14 lives on that hit list. I chose to give you closure for your mother's death. I chose to force you to confront your grief instead of running from it. What will you choose? I love you, Michael. I always did. I always will. Now finish this mission. But don't let it finish you. Your father. Sergeant Major James Washington. Michael set the letter down carefully. When he looked up, tears streamed freely down his face, and he made no attempt to hide them. My father, he said quietly, spent 15 years trying to teach me the difference between justice and revenge. I didn't listen. I was too angry, too hurt, too consumed by guilt. So he taught me the only way I'd understand, by sacrificing himself to show me what justice actually costs. Agent Brooks's expression softened slightly. Director Washington. Was it justice or revenge? Michael looked at her directly. I thought I was using my father for revenge. Turns out, he was using me for justice. And now I have to decide which one I'm going to finish. He stood. Am I under arrest? Not yet, Brooks said. But this investigation is ongoing. Don't leave the state. Michael nodded and walked out, carrying his father's final letter like a shield against the darkness. In the hallway, Lisa waited. Michael. Marcus Kane is back in custody? 20 minutes ago. His bail was revoked. With that recording, he's not getting out again. Good. Michael took a breath. Then we finish this. All of it. The right way. The way my father wanted. And what way is that? Michael looked down at the letter in his hands, at his father's careful handwriting, at the question that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Was it justice, or was it revenge? I don't know yet, he admitted. But I'm going to find out. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 7. 6 months later, the Kansas Federal Courthouse stood like a monument to judgment, limestone columns rising 3 stories, American flags snapping in the March wind, and a crowd of 200 people packed behind police barricades, holding signs that screamed both justice and hate in equal measure. Justice for Jimmy. Free Marcus Kane, political prisoner. Black Lives Matter. White heritage is not a crime. Michael Washington sat in the prosecution's gallery, wearing the same black suit he'd worn to his father's funeral, his hands folded in his lap with the careful stillness of a man who'd learned that any movement might shatter what remained of his composure. The trial of Marcus Kane had become a circus. CNN ran continuous coverage. Twitter exploded with hashtags. The Southern Poverty Law Center sent observers. White supremacist groups from 8 states descended on Millbrook, turning the small Kansas town into a powder keg of rage and righteousness. And at the center of it all, a metal box containing 247 letters, an SD card with a dead man's voice, and a question that had haunted Michael for 6 months. Was it justice, or was it revenge? All rise. Judge Patricia Okonkwo entered, a 63-year-old black woman whose reputation for fairness was matched only by her intolerance for theatrics. She presided over hate crime trials for 20 years and had the scars to prove it, including a death threat tattooed on her soul from the last Klan case she'd handled. Be seated. Her voice carried the weight of authority earned through decades of staring down monsters. We're here for the trial of Marcus Raymond Kane, charged with first-degree murder in the death of Eleanor Washington, conspiracy to commit murder, and 17 counts of hate crimes. Is the prosecution ready? Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Torres stood, sharp, mid-40s, a daughter of immigrants who'd built her career dismantling domestic terrorism networks. Yes, Your Honor. Defense? Marcus Kane's attorney, Thomas Whitmore, rose with the practiced grace of a man who'd made millions defending the indefensible. Silver-haired, expensive suit, a smile that never reached his ice-blue eyes. Ready, Your Honor. Michael's jaw clenched. Whitmore was a legend in far-right circles, the lawyer who'd gotten 3 Proud Boys acquitted, who'd turned a domestic terrorism case into a First Amendment victory, who specialized in making monsters look like martyrs. Then let's proceed. Judge Okonkwo looked directly at Marcus Kane, who sat at the defense table in a pressed suit, his cobra tattoo covered by makeup, his shaved head hidden under a wig that made him look almost respectable. Almost human. He caught Michael's eye and smiled. Michael looked away before the rage could show on his face. The first 3 days of trial were a masterclass in legal warfare. The prosecution laid out the evidence with surgical precision: Jimmy's recordings, the hit list found at Kane's compound, forensic evidence linking Marcus to Eleanor Washington's car, testimony from former associates who'd turned state's evidence. The defense countered with a narrative of persecution: Marcus Kane, a troubled young man whose father had been railroaded by a corrupt system, who'd made mistakes but was being crucified for his beliefs, who'd been entrapped by an FBI director seeking revenge for a tragic accident. Accident, Whitmore said, his voice dripping with manufactured sympathy. Eleanor Washington's death was ruled an accident by the Kansas State Police. No evidence of foul play. Just a tragic brake failure that the prosecution is now trying to rewrite as murder to justify an illegal operation. Objection, Torres snapped. The defendant's own recorded confession. A recording obtained through entrapment by an FBI director using his dying father as bait. Whitmore's voice rose. This entire case is built on a personal vendetta, Your Honor. Michael Washington wanted revenge, and he sacrificed his own father to get it. The courtroom erupted. Judge Okonkwo's gavel cracked like thunder. Order. Mr. Whitmore, you'll keep your conspiracy theories for closing arguments. This is a murder trial, not a referendum on the FBI. But the damage was done. The jury, 8 white, 3 black, one Latina, shifted uncomfortably. Doubt, like poison, had entered the bloodstream of justice. On day 4, the prosecution called Michael Washington to the stand. The walk from the gallery to the witness box felt like walking to his own execution. Michael raised his right hand, swore to tell the truth, and sat in the chair where his father should have been sitting, testifying, bearing witness, finishing what he'd started in 1995. Jennifer Torres approached with the careful steps of a woman navigating a minefield. Director Washington, please state your relationship to the victim, James Washington. He was my father. And to Eleanor Washington? My mother. Can you tell the court about your father's involvement in the 1995 case against Raymond Cain? Michael took a breath. My father testified against Raymond Cain and members of his Ku Klux Klan chapter in the murder trial of the Jackson family. His testimony was instrumental in securing convictions. And after that trial, did your family receive threats? Yes. Death threats. Our home was vandalized. My mother, his voice caught. My mother was afraid. But my father said we couldn't let them win through fear. And in 2009, your mother died in a car accident. Yes. Torres paused, letting the word hang. At the time, did you believe it was truly an accident? Yes. The police investigation concluded brake failure. Mechanical issue. Michael's hands gripped the armrests. My father disagreed. He insisted she'd been murdered. But he was drinking heavily, and I thought it was grief and paranoia. When did you learn the truth? 6 months ago. When we raided Marcus Cain's compound and found evidence, a hit list, documenting Eleanor Washington's murder as retaliation for my father's testimony. The courtroom was utterly silent. Director Washington, Torres said gently, did you use your father as bait to draw out Marcus Cain? The question landed like a punch. Michael saw the jury lean forward. Saw Marcus Cain's smile widen. Saw his own career, his father's sacrifice, everything balanced on the edge of his next words. Yes. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Judge Okonkwo's gavel cracked once. I identified my father as a target of Marcus Cain's organization, Michael continued, his voice steady. I maintained surveillance. And I allowed events to proceed rather than immediately placing him in protective custody. Why? Torres asked. Because, Michael stopped. Started again. Because I told myself it was about justice. About stopping a domestic terrorism network that had killed 6 people and would kill more. But the truth is, I wanted revenge. For my mother. For the 15 years my father spent drowning in guilt and alcohol because no one believed him. I wanted Marcus Cain and everyone like him to pay. The confession hung in the air like smoke. Thomas Whitmore practically leaped to his feet for cross-examination. Director Washington, he said, his voice smooth as poison, you've just admitted to using your elderly, vulnerable father as bait in a personal vendetta. Is that correct? That's what I believed at the time. Did you protect him? I thought I was. I was wrong. Your father died from injuries sustained in an attack you allowed to happen. Doesn't that make you responsible for his death? Michael's jaw clenched. Yes. So this entire case, this prosecution, is built on evidence obtained through an operation motivated not by law enforcement, but by personal revenge. Evidence that cost your father his life. Objection. Torres stood. Argumentative and. I'll allow it, Judge Okonkwo said quietly. Answer the question, Director Washington. Michael looked at Marcus Cain, at that smug, empty smile, and felt the rage threatening to consume him. Felt his father's voice in his memory, justice protects the future. Revenge punishes the past. I told myself it was about justice, Michael said quietly. But I wanted my father to mean something. After years of abandoning him, of returning his letters unopened, of pretending he didn't exist, I wanted his suffering to serve a purpose. I wanted to use him to catch the people who destroyed our family. So yes, Mr. Whitmore, I used my father. I manipulated the situation. And he died because of choices I made. Marcus Kane was grinning now, his lawyer nodding sagely, the jury looking horrified. But, Michael continued, his voice growing stronger, I was wrong about something else. Whitmore frowned. Excuse me? I thought I was using my father. I thought I was the one in control, orchestrating everything. But I wasn't. Michael pulled out a folded piece of paper, Jimmy's final letter, creased from 6 months of carrying it like a talisman. My father was using me. Your Honor, Whitmore sputtered, this is. I'll allow it. Judge Okonkwo leaned forward. Continue, Director Washington. My father knew I was using him. He confronted my surveillance team. He stopped taking his heart medication to appear more vulnerable. He recorded evidence. He orchestrated his own attack, on his terms, not mine, because he knew it was the only way to stop Marcus Kane and save me from becoming consumed by revenge the way he'd been consumed by grief. Michael's voice broke. My father spent 15 years trying to teach me the difference between justice and revenge. I didn't listen. So he taught me the only way I'd understand, by sacrificing himself to show me what justice costs. The courtroom was silent as a tomb. Ms. Torres, Judge Okonkwo said quietly, I believe you have rebuttal evidence? Yes, Your Honor. Torres approached the bench with a laptop. The prosecution would like to enter into evidence a recording made by James Washington on the morning of September 26, approximately 2 hours before the attack. She pressed play. Jimmy Washington's voice filled the courtroom, strong despite the pain, clear despite the knowledge of what was coming. My name is Sergeant Major James Washington. I am 82 years old and of sound mind. I am making this recording of my own free will, with no coercion. I am aware that Marcus Kane and his associates have been stalking me for months. I am aware that my son, FBI Director Michael Washington, has maintained surveillance as part of an investigation into Kane's organization. And I am aware that Michael believes he is using me as bait. He is wrong. I have been baiting Marcus Kane for 6 months. I stopped taking my heart medication to appear vulnerable. I documented his stalking patterns. I recorded his confessions. This is MY operation, conducted on MY terms, for MY reasons. Michael, if you're hearing this, stop blaming yourself. This was always my choice. You gave me surveillance and resources, but I gave myself to this mission. I'm a soldier. This is my final deployment. And I'm proud of it. To the court, my son did not endanger me. I endangered myself. Willingly. Knowingly. Because 14 people are alive today because Marcus Kane is being arrested instead of planning their murders. Because my wife's murder will finally be avenged through law, not violence. Because my son will finally understand that justice isn't about revenge, it's about protecting the future. I hereby give my full consent to the use of any evidence I've gathered. I absolve my son of responsibility for my actions. And I ask that Marcus Kane and everyone involved in my wife's murder face the full weight of the law. This is Sergeant Major James Washington, signing off from my last mission. Tell my son I'm proud of him. Tell him I love him. And tell him to finish this the right way. The recording ended. Not a sound in the courtroom. Not a breath. Not a whisper. Michael sat with tears streaming down his face, and for once, he didn't try to hide them. Judge Okonkwo's voice was thick with emotion. The jury will disregard Mr. Whitmore's characterization of this case as a vendetta. Clearly, James Washington was a willing participant who made his own choices. Proceed, Ms. Torres. The trial continued for 2 more days, but the outcome was never in doubt. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Marcus Kane stood for sentencing, his manufactured respectability cracking to reveal the monster underneath. Life in prison without possibility of parole, Judge Okonkwo said. And may you spend every day of that life contemplating the evil you've done and the man whose sacrifice stopped you. As marshals moved to escort him out, Marcus Kane turned toward Michael, and his mask dropped completely. You think this is over, he shouted, his voice echoing off the courthouse walls. My father had friends, Washington. Real friends, not informants. Your whole family is marked. Every last one of you. Remove him, Judge Okonkwo ordered. But Marcus continued screaming as he was dragged away. The list isn't finished. We know about. The door slammed shut, cutting off his words. Michael stood, his legs unsteady, and walked toward the exit. Outside, the crowd was already celebrating. Justice served, monster caged, but Michael felt hollow. Michael. Lisa Chen caught his arm in the hallway, her face pale, her phone clutched in her hand. We need to talk. Now. She pulled him into an empty conference room and closed the door. What is it? After Kane's outburst, we did a deep dive into his organization's communications. Encrypted files we hadn't fully processed. Her hands shook as she pulled up an image on her phone. Michael, there's a contract. Active. Posted 3 weeks ago. She turned the phone toward him. The photo showed a young woman, maybe 19, with Jimmy Washington's high cheekbones and Eleanor's intelligent eyes. She wore a University of Chicago sweatshirt and smiled at the camera with the unconscious confidence of someone who'd never known real danger. The caption underneath made Michael's blood run cold. Granddaughter, Alicia Washington. College student, Chicago. $50,000 for confirmation. Phase 3, make it hurt. Granddaughter, Michael whispered. I don't have a. Your father did. Lisa pulled up another file. Birth certificate. Alicia Marie Washington, born November 3, 2006. Mother, Sarah Chen, listed as deceased. Father, unknown. But DNA records in your father's VA file show a match. Chen. Michael looked up sharply. Any relation to? My cousin, Lisa said quietly. Sarah was my cousin. She died in childbirth. Your father helped raise Alicia for the first 3 years, then placed her with adoptive parents when his drinking got bad. Sealed adoption. He never told you because he wanted to protect her from this. Michael stared at the photo of the daughter he'd never known existed. My father's last secret. She doesn't know who her biological family is. She's been safe because she's been invisible. But somehow, Marcus Kane's organization found out. Michael's phone was already in his hand, dialing. Get me a protective detail to University of Chicago. Now. I want agents on her within the hour. Already done. But Michael, Lisa's voice was urgent. There's more. The contract was posted by someone with the username RK_legacy. Raymond Kane's legacy. Marcus wasn't working alone. His father's organization is still active, still following the hit list, and they're targeting your daughter to finish what they started. Michael looked at the photo of Alicia Washington, a girl who'd grown up without knowing her grandfather's sacrifice, her grandmother's murder, or her father's existence. A girl who was now marked for death because of choices made before she was born. I need a car, Michael said. And I need it now. Michael, you can't. That's my daughter, Lisa. My father died protecting her secret. I'm not letting his sacrifice be for nothing. He headed for the door, then stopped. And Lisa? Thank you. For everything. Michael. She grabbed his arm. Your father spent his last mission trying to teach you the difference between justice and revenge. Don't forget that lesson now. Michael looked at the photo of Alicia one more time, and Jimmy's voice echoed in his memory. Justice protects the future. Revenge punishes the past. I know the difference now, he said quietly. Justice is what I'm going to bring to the people threatening my daughter. Revenge is what they'll wish I'd settled for instead. He walked out of the courthouse into the Kansas wind, already planning his next move, already running toward a daughter he'd never met, already knowing that his father's final mission had just become his own. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. If you are enjoying this video, do well to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Chapter 8. The drive from Kansas to Chicago should have taken 8 hours. Michael made it in 6, his FBI credentials bypassing speed limits, his mind racing faster than the engine as farmland blurred into suburbs into the jagged skyline of a city that held his unknown daughter. Alicia Marie Washington. 19 years old. Criminal justice major. Wants to be an FBI agent. The irony wasn't lost on him. Lisa had sent everything during the drive: transcripts, photos, social media profiles. Alicia was brilliant, 3.9 GPA, debate team captain, volunteer at a legal aid clinic. She had Eleanor's sharp mind and Jimmy's sense of justice, wrapped in a face that was hauntingly, achingly familiar. She had no idea who she really was. The University of Chicago campus sprawled across the south side like an ivy-covered fortress of knowledge. Michael's protection detail, for agents in 2 unmarked cars, had eyes on Alicia's dorm, Burton Judson Courts, a Gothic revival building that looked more like a castle than student housing. Status? Michael said into his phone as he pulled up to the security checkpoint. Subject is in her room, 3rd floor, Agent Morrison reported. 2 undercover agents in the lobby. Campus security briefed. No signs of threat yet, but sir, we picked up chatter. Someone matching the description of Kane's associate, Derek Walsh, was spotted near campus 2 hours ago. Michael's blood ran cold. Derek Walsh, Marcus Kane's second-in-command, the one who'd escaped the raid, the one whose face was on every FBI wanted poster from Kansas to Michigan. Lock it down. Nobody gets in or out without ID verification. I'm going up. He took the stairs 3 at a time, his heart hammering not from exertion but from a terror he'd never experienced in 20 years of law enforcement. This wasn't a suspect or a witness or a victim in the abstract. This was his daughter. Room 347, the same number as Jimmy's hospital room, and wasn't that just the universe's cruel sense of symmetry, sat at the end of a hallway decorated with social justice posters and dry erase boards covered in inside jokes. Michael raised his hand to knock, then hesitated. What do you say to a daughter who doesn't know you exist? He knocked. Come in, it's open. The voice was young, confident, utterly unprepared for what was coming. Michael opened the door. Alicia Washington sat cross-legged on her bed, surrounded by textbooks, her laptop open to what looked like a research paper on Fourth Amendment protections. She wore an FBI Academy sweatshirt, aspirational, not earned, and her hair was pulled back in a bun that made her look even more like Eleanor. She looked up, smiled automatically, then frowned. Can I help you? If you're with campus security about the protest last week, I already gave my statement. Alicia, Michael said, and his voice cracked on her name. My name is Michael Washington. How did you say this? I'm your father. Your grandfather, James Washington, just died. And you're in danger. The words landed like grenades. Alicia's face went through a dozen emotions in 3 seconds: confusion, disbelief, anger, fear. She stood, her hand moving instinctively toward her phone. My father is dead. Grandpa told me he died before I was born. So I don't know who you are or what kind of scam. Your grandfather was Sergeant Major James Washington, 82 years old, Vietnam veteran. He died 6 months ago after being assaulted by a white supremacist named Marcus Kane. Michael pulled out his FBI credentials, then a photo, the one from Jimmy's apartment, of Michael at his academy graduation. He kept this picture. He never stopped caring about his family, even the ones he had to keep secret. Alicia stared at the photo, then at Michael's face, and something in her expression shifted. Recognition. The undeniable evidence of genetics, the same eyes, the same jawline, the same way they both stood with their weight slightly forward, ready to move. He said you were dead, she whispered. He said my father died in the line of duty. He said, her voice broke. He lied to me. He protected you. Michael took a careful step forward. Your grandmother was murdered by the same organization that killed your grandfather. They've been systematically targeting everyone connected to his 1995 testimony against the Klan. He kept me away from you not because he didn't love me, but because knowing who your family was would make you a target. And now? Now they know anyway. And there's a contract on you. $50,000 to anyone who can confirm your identity and location. Alicia's training, the instincts she'd been developing for a future in law enforcement, kicked in. How did they find out? We're still determining that. But right now, we need to. The window exploded inward. Michael moved on pure instinct, tackling Alicia to the ground as glass rained down and bullets punched through the walls where she'd been standing. His weapon was in his hand before conscious thought, returning fire through the shattered window at the rooftop across the courtyard where muzzle flashes bloomed like deadly flowers. Stay down, he shouted, covering Alicia's body with his own as more gunfire erupted, not just from the window, but from the hallway. They'd sent a team. Front and back. Professional. Coordinated. Michael's phone was already at his ear. Shots fired, shots fired. Third floor, Burton Judson, we need backup now. 2 minutes out. Morrison's voice, strained with the sound of running. Sir, we've got 3 hostiles in the building, 2 more on the adjacent roof. An explosion rocked the first floor. Fire alarm screaming. Students flooding into hallways, creating chaos, providing cover for the attackers. Bathroom, Michael ordered, pulling Alicia up. Now. They ran, staying low, as bullets chewed through drywall behind them. The bathroom was small, institutional, with a single frosted window that led to a fire escape. Michael kicked it open. I'm not leaving my friends, Alicia started. Your friends are being evacuated by campus security. You're the target. We move, or we die. Choose. Something in his voice, the absolute certainty of someone who'd made these calculations 1,000 times, made Alicia nod and climb through the window. The fire escape rattled as they descended, bullets sparking off metal railings. Michael returned fire, his shots precise, professional, each one buying seconds. Below, FBI vehicles screeched into the courtyard, agents deploying with tactical precision. But Derek Walsh was already there, emerging from a maintenance entrance with 2 associates, weapons raised, eyes locked on Alicia. Michael didn't think. Didn't calculate. Didn't consider tactics or strategy or career implications. He jumped from the second-story fire escape, landed hard on Derek Walsh's back, and brought them both crashing to the concrete. His weapon flew from his hand, skittering across the pavement. Walsh rolled, faster than expected, a knife appearing in his hand. A gunshot cracked. Walsh's shoulder exploded red. He went down screaming. Michael looked up. Alicia stood on the fire escape, holding a fallen agent's weapon with both hands, her stance textbook perfect, her hands steady. FBI. Drop your weapons. Agent Morrison and her team poured into the courtyard, and suddenly it was over. Walsh and his associates on the ground, cuffed, bleeding, their last attempt to fulfill Raymond Kane's legacy ending in failure. Michael stood slowly, staring at his daughter, who'd just saved his life. Criminal Justice Major, Alicia said, her voice shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. I've been training at the gun range twice a week. Grandpa insisted. He said, her voice broke. He said someday I might need to protect myself. He was preparing me. Wasn't he? Michael nodded, unable to speak. He knew this was coming. He knew they'd find me eventually. That's why he lied about you. That's why he pushed me toward law enforcement. Tears streamed down her face. He spent 19 years protecting me from a war that started before I was born. Just like he spent 15 years protecting me, Michael said quietly. From my own anger. My own need for revenge. From becoming the kind of man who'd sacrifice everything for justice and call it noble. He walked to her, and for the first time, looked at his daughter not as a victim to be protected or an asset to be secured, but as a person, strong, capable, the living embodiment of his father's final gift. I'm sorry, he said. For not knowing you existed. For not being there. For Alicia hugged him, sudden and fierce, and Michael felt something inside him break open, 15 years of walls crumbling, grief and love pouring out in equal measure. "Tell me about him," she whispered. "Tell me about Grandpa. The real story. All of it." So he did. 3 weeks later, Arlington National Cemetery spread green and solemn under gray skies threatening rain. Sergeant Major James Washington's funeral was attended by 847 people, veterans, FBI agents, strangers who'd seen the news and come to honor a man who'd sacrificed everything. The coffin, draped in American flag, sat above a grave that would rest between Eleanor's and the space reserved, eventually, for Michael. A family reunited in death, if not quite in life. Michael stood at the podium, Alicia beside him, both wearing black, both carrying grief like a weight they'd learned to share. "My father wrote me 247 letters," Michael began, his voice carrying across the cemetery. "I never read them. I was too angry, too hurt, too consumed by my own sense of righteousness to see what he was really trying to tell me." He pulled out the first letter, the one written 15 years ago, the one that had started it all. "Letter number 1, he read. "Dear Michael, I know you won't read this. But I'm writing it anyway, because your mother made me promise. She said love isn't about being heard. It's about speaking truth even into silence. So here's my truth, I failed you. I chose the bottle over your pain. I let my grief destroy our family. And I understand why you left. But I'm still here. Still your father. Still trying. Still hoping that someday, you'll give me the chance to prove that broken things can be repaired." Michael's voice broke. Alicia squeezed his hand. "I spent 15 years punishing him for being human," Michael continued. "For having weaknesses. For failing. And in that time, I became exactly what I feared, someone so focused on justice that I forgot about mercy. Someone so consumed by revenge that I forgot about redemption." He looked at Jimmy's coffin. "Dad, I finally understand. You didn't fail me. You taught me the hardest lesson: sometimes love means sacrifice. Sometimes justice costs everything. And sometimes, being a hero means admitting you're human, broken, and still trying anyway." He pulled out his own letter, the first response he'd written in 15 years. "So here's my truth, I forgive you. For the drinking. For the pain. For not being perfect. And I'm sorry. For the silence. For the returned letters. For using you when I should have been saving you. I hope you forgive me too." He placed the letter on the coffin. "Your son, Michael." The 21-gun salute cracked across the cemetery. Taps played, mournful and eternal. The flag was folded with military precision and presented to Alicia, who clutched it like the precious legacy it was. As they lowered the coffin, Michael whispered, "Mission complete, Dad. Rest easy." 2 days later, Michael and Alicia stood in front of Eleanor's grave, autumn leaves swirling around their feet. Alicia placed white roses, Eleanor's favorite. Michael placed his father's purple heart, the one Jimmy had kept in the metal box, the one earned in blood and sacrifice. "I resigned from the FBI," Michael said quietly. "Effective immediately." Alicia looked at him sharply. "What? Why?" "Because I've been running from my father's ghost for 15 years. Running from grief, from guilt, from anything that felt like vulnerability. I built a career on control and distance and telling myself that justice mattered more than people." He looked at her. "I was wrong. And I'm not making that mistake again." "What will you do?" "I don't know yet. But I know what I won't do. I won't put my career ahead of my family. I won't sacrifice the people I love for the people I'm trying to save. I won't become so focused on protecting the world that I forget to protect what matters." "Me," Alicia said softly. "You. And Dad's memory. And the lesson he died trying to teach me." Michael took her hand. "I want to know you, Alicia. Really know you. Not as an FBI director protecting an asset, but as a father learning about his daughter. If you'll let me. Alicia was quiet for a long moment, looking at the graves of grandparents she'd barely known, at the legacy of sacrifice that had shaped her life from the shadows. Grandpa used to tell me something, she said finally. He'd say, baby girl, heroes aren't the ones who never fall down. They're the ones who get back up, who admit their mistakes, who try again. I didn't understand what he meant. I think I do now. She looked at Michael. What now? Michael smiled, the first genuine smile in 6 months. Now? I try to be the father and son I should have been. Starting with you. Starting today. They walked away from the graves together, father and daughter, beginning the long work of building something from the ruins of loss. Behind them, Jimmy's headstone gleamed in the late afternoon sun. Sergeant Major James Washington. 1943 to 2025. Served his country. Saved his son. Protected his legacy. 6 months later, Miller's Cafe reopened after renovations. Linda Martinez had fought to keep it alive, and the community had rallied. The corner booth, Jimmy's booth, now bore a small brass plaque. Reserved for heroes. In memory of SGT Maj. James Washington. Who taught us that courage isn't fearlessness. It's choosing love over hate, every single day. A young black veteran, maybe 25, fresh from deployment, walked in on a Thursday afternoon. He looked around, saw the corner booth, read the plaque. Can I sit here? He asked Linda. That's what it's for, she said gently. Coffee? Black. The way my grandfather used to drink it. He sat down, pulled out a worn journal, and began to write. Outside, the world continued, imperfect, broken, still fighting old wars and starting new ones. But in Miller's Cafe, in Jimmy Washington's booth, a young veteran wrote letters to someone he'd lost, keeping faith with the idea that love spoken into silence still mattered. That broken things could heal. That heroes were just people who chose, every day, to try again. The cycle of honor continued. And somewhere, in whatever lies beyond, Jimmy Washington smiled. I know you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Share your thoughts in the comments section below and send this video to family and friends. The end.